Another day, another tiring day of scamming these men and getting ready and catfishing them. Haters be like, but don't you feel so bad? Oh my goodness, yeah. Anyhow, I'm gonna go get my nails done and go to Louis Vuitton. Welcome to another episode of Scamming These Men. This guy that I have never met just sent me $150 for nails and dinner. And then said, I can't wait to meet you, baby girl. What makes you think you're gonna meet me, Richard?
I believe that catfishing is wrong. I believe that it's fraud to pretend to be romantically interested in somebody when you're not. I believe that it's theft when you accept money under false pretenses. I believe that this woman's actions are extremely immoral, and I don't know if they're technically illegal or not, but ethically, I believe her behavior is disgraceful. That's what I believe, but what does she believe? Like, what value system is she operating under that allows her to behave in this way? She obviously doesn't think that she's doing anything wrong. She doesn't see herself as a villain or a bad guy. Otherwise, she wouldn't be doing this, which begs the question, what exactly is her psychology? What does she believe? This is important because women like this are terrifying. They're scary because who knows what they're capable of. It's a scary thought to imagine that we're sharing this planet with people who seemingly feel no compassion or empathy towards their fellow humans. My hope with this video is that explaining the psychology of a woman like this, how and why she thinks and acts the way that she does, it'll feel less threatening because though her behavior remains disgusting, at least we can understand it. Speaking of people who have no empathy for their fellow humans, right now all across the globe there are hackers and scam artists trying to steal your identity, trying to steal your data, trying to steal your money. Turns out it's not just catfishing gold digger women who want to steal your money, but luckily Atlas VPN is here to save the day. They are the sponsor of today's video with a crazy affordable price. It's only $1.99 per month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hopefully you know how a VPN works. It scrambles the location of your IP address so that nobody can track you, nobody can steal your data. It gives you total anonymity online. But one of the things that makes Atlas VPN particularly good is this data breach monitor feature, which means that if your name, your email address, your passwords ever make it onto one of those, hacked databases, they will inform you and let you know so that you can quickly change it and keep up with your security. When you're using Atlas VPN, nobody's going to be able to monitor your activities because they're not going to be able to track who you are. Your computer's location is being pinged to these locations around the world. For all intensive purposes, you're in a completely different geographical location, which is wonderful when it comes to unlocking the full libraries of streaming services like Disney Plus or Netflix. For example, if you want to watch that Ukrainian sitcom that Volodymyr Zelensky was in, the one that launched his presidency, and it's not available in your country, no problems. Just use Atlas VPN, change your location, and then you can watch it. There's no good reason to not be using a VPN, and Atlas VPN has such a good deal going at the moment. $1.99 per month, so affordable, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee if for any reason you're not satisfied. So that's Atlas VPN. Thank you guys for sponsoring this video. You're awesome. Okay, back to this woman. How is it possible that she's able to scam men for their money and feel zero compassion to her victims? Okay, I've got three possible explanations. Number one, she has a personality disorder. Number two, she doesn't consider men as a group to be deserving of rights. Or number three, she doesn't consider the individual men that she's scamming as deserving of rights. Okay, let's go through these one at a time. Let's start with the personality disorder one. Now, it is possible that her doing this is not actually gender specific, at least not intention, though it is in consequence. She might just be a con artist who's out to defraud people, and she has just happened to find that the easiest demographic that she can manipulate and steal from happens to be men. She would happily steal from anybody. This isn't about morality for her or gender, it's just about money. There are certain personality disorders like narcissism, psychopathy, sociopathy that don't feel empathy. That's just not an emotion they ever experience. So that feeling that you get when you see another person in pain or you've hurt another person and you get that sting of conscience and regret, and you get the experience of, oh, I can imagine how they're feeling and now I'm feeling that too. And that of course prevents you from doing awful things like physical violence, lying to them, stealing from them. That emotion that you experience, those people with those personality disorders, they don't experience that. They couldn't even comprehend what that would be like. It's like that part of their humanity is missing. And so this makes sense why she's able to steal money from these men and not feel compassion, because she's actually neurologically incapable of feeling remorse. I talked about the Dark Triad personality of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism in my last video, but I also give my personal thoughts about the Dark Triad in this exclusive Patreon video, if you want to check that out. So that's one explanation, she just has a personality disorder, but it's also possible that she is capable of feeling compassion and empathy, but only towards women. For men, they're considered a completely different group, subhuman. They don't deserve compassion. Women have the right to not be defrauded, the right to expect the truth, the right to not be stolen from, because, they're women, they're amazing, they're special, whatever it might be. But men, those dangerous, dirty dog, subhuman species of men, they don't deserve those same rights. And so you're fully morally justified in stealing from them, to lying to them. Perhaps this seems outlandish to you, nobody could possibly have that belief. Well, we've got to find some explanation. How is she able to do this, steal from men, and think that it's funny? I promise you, there are women who exist who absolutely have this belief in female supremacy. Women are special, men are subhuman. How does this belief develop? Well, I've already explained in previous videos the sort of biological origins of this, how we've evolved. Women didn't really evolve much capacity to feel empathy for men because that's just not how the family and social structures actually worked. Women were expected to take care of the children, the infants, whereas women expected men to take care of them. It's not the other way around. That's why women have such an antipathy towards mothering their boyfriends. They don't view that as their role. If you want to find out more information about that, I made a whole video on it. But in my opinion, the biological explanation doesn't even come close to explaining this kind of level of callous disregard for the humanity of men. Not at all. I think in order to reach this kind of level of emotional disregard, you have to assume that they have been the victim of intense cultural conditioning or individual trauma, or possibly both. By cultural conditioning, I'm referring to those social movements that are hell-bent on elevating women to this protected class of species. Women are special, unique, they're perfect angels, whereas men are total scumbags. For those extreme branches of radical feminism that believe, wholeheartedly in female supremacy, that kind of disgusting sexism, it doesn't even register for them because they don't see it that way. They see that as an absolute fact. It doesn't even seem controversial for them to say it. Of course, women are special and men are disgusting. That seems like a fact for them. And so when you hear messages like this going around society, like a young girl growing up, she could have been brainwashed into this way of thinking that men are subhuman and that women are special and therefore entitled to do whatever they want. Of course you treat the lower members of society worse. That's just the nature of things. That's the order of things. And, women have had it so rough for so long that we're just tipping the scales back to even. It's fine for women to even be on top for a little while. My act of stealing from men, that's somehow an act of female empowerment. So that's the explanation of cultural conditioning, the sort of social explanation. But it's also possible that it wasn't about that. It was just about individual trauma. So what could have happened is that, a woman like this has experienced abuse at the hands of a man in her life, a father, a teacher, an ex-boyfriend, something like that. And that individual trauma has been dissolved into toxic collective tribalism. And what I mean by that is that she is holding all men responsible for the actions of a single man who wronged her. That's obviously ridiculous. It's incredibly sexist. It was actually the foundational point of that video I made about why women's domestic violence shelters are a terrible idea. But it doesn't really need to be one or the other. It could be that these two explanations actually intersect and intertwine. And so there could be an element of individual trauma, and it could have partnered up with the cultural conditioning that says that it's fun, it's exciting, it's okay to steal from men, to lie to them, to defraud them. As a group, men are just so awful and so subhuman that none of them deserve rights. So that's the second explanation, that men as a whole don't deserve rights. But the third possible explanation is that men on the whole do deserve rights, and she believes that, but there's something about these individual men that she believes they have forfeited any rights. Now, why would that be? Like, what have these specific men done to her that would warrant that kind of behavior and that kind of attitude? Okay, there are two possible explanations. And the first is that she's warranted lying and stealing from this man because he showed sexual and romantic interest in her. I know that that probably sounds strange to you listening, because you're thinking, wait, why would that make sense? Like, he likes her, he shows admiration for the person that she is, he's interested in getting to know her. Isn't that a compliment? Isn't that a nice thing? Like, why on earth would him showing romantic and sexual interest in her possibly justify her stealing from him? You know, how does that make sense? It doesn't. Like, rationally speaking, it doesn't make sense, of course, but I'm just trying to explain, you know, the twisted logic and beliefs that some women have, in that they actually think, there are some women who believe that male sexuality is inherently aggressive or even abusive. And so there are some women who feel like if a man shows sexual or romantic interest in them, they feel personally affronted, as though he's done something wrong to her. She doesn't grant that the male desire for companionship or a sexual partner is legitimate at all. All the wondrous beauty of connection with another human being, the celebration of life, the meeting of flesh, like all that fantastic magical stuff that men absolutely experience, men's sexuality is beautiful, that's completely lost to them. They don't see it that way. Male sexuality is evil. Male sexuality is dark and disgusting and beastly and animalistic. And so the fact that he has shown sexual interest in her, that's disgusting. I can't believe he would do that to her. It suddenly means that he's fair game. I know, totally weird logic, but in this kind of twisted belief system, she could be acting in this way, and in her mind, she's just evening the scales. Like, oh, well, he tried to sleep with me, and so I got back at him by stealing money from him, and it's his fault. He doesn't deserve rights. He doesn't deserve compassion or empathy, because if he didn't try and sleep with me, then none of this would have happened. That's his fault. The other explanation for why she doesn't feel empathy for these specific men is not really related to gender. It would just be the same justification used by criminals all around the world, which essentially goes like this. If this person is dumb enough to fall for this scam, then they are deserving of everything that they get. In other words, the mere fact that she's able to scam men in this way and get away with it means that those men deserve it. It's a very common justification that criminals use to blame the victims, make it their fault, and it serves an important psychological purpose too, because when you make it their fault, you blame the victims, then suddenly you don't have to take responsibility for what you've done. So which explanation is correct? You know, why does this woman behave the way that she does? You know, how does she get away with it while feeling zero compassion or empathy? Am I wrong in assuming that this is a gendered issue? Does she just have a personality disorder and that's it? Does she believe that collectively men as a whole don't deserve any rights? Or is it not about men, but just about these specific men, and she feels fine stealing from them because they're either dumb or because they showed sexual interest in her? I don't have a definitive answer. I think that any of these explanations could be possible, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So let me know in the comment section what you think the most likely explanation is. You know, what does this woman actually believe? I know that there's a lot of reasons to get depressed about the dating market and your prospective chances of finding a partner. You know, there's a lot of issues with female hypergamy and rising standards and so much competition for a small demographic of women. And I can understand why you'd get bummed out about that, but have you also noticed that the competition sucks? Like, it's not fun to say, and I feel tremendous compassion for those men, but so many guys out there are completely clueless when it comes to women, and you should keep that in mind. Don't allow yourself to get intimidated because you think that there are men who are so much better than you. There are a lot of guys who are total chumps at this. They have no understanding, no masculinity. I think that you might perform better than you imagine that you will. So don't allow your mind to get in the way of that. I go into a whole bunch more depth on that particular topic in my latest Patreon video. So if what I'm saying resonates with you and you want to find out more, then please go and sign up on my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription. You get instant access to that video plus every other video in my back catalog, which is at least 200 videos at this point. We have an amazing community over there, great discussions. It's a great way to support the creator. I'd love to see you over there so that you can be a part of it.